Truth. What is it? How do we know it? When we see it? And does it even fucking matter? Welcome to the podcast, my friends. My name is Joshua, or Carpo if you prefer. I decided to make this a podcast / video, although I will usually do one or the other, because it's going to be one of my shorter podcasts. And this is the 15-minute free thinking podcast, which is brought to you by my sponsor, you, my supporters on Patreon. Thank you. I appreciate it. You keep the channel going. This topic about truth is something that is near and dear to my heart, as many philosophers could probably relate. If you think about life at all whatsoever, truth is the central theme, the first and foremost. This is the whole point of Descartes. I think, therefore I am. We've got all these different sayings about what truth is, what you can grasp, what you can understand. If you let go of it, it ceases to matter, and then you start to see things very clearly. And I think that this is such a simple lesson that just is not taught to enough people. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm some guru that can teach you, truth by saying truth doesn't matter. Because most people, they want some form of truth. They don't want to believe that anything is possible. They want to believe that certain things are possible and certain things are not. This is how we cope with the fact that life is just, mind-numbingly erratic and intense, and we are so immersed in it that we can't really see consciousness for what it is. But the limited spectrum that we can see, the limited smells, the limited things we can hear, there are so many different frequencies, electromagnetic spectrums passing all around us. We see what we need to see to survive, okay? So when I say truth, a lot of folks say, well, the truth is subjective, and a lot of the times it seems to be. And people seem to get angry at others when they don't share the same truth. So here's the thing. You can have your own truth that works. Not everybody needs to share the same truth, okay? And what I mean by that is what works for one person may not work for another, or they might have a different option that works better. But there are very few things in life that we find that we actually know for sure. And you'll find that the older we get, we find that we look back on some things we thought were true, and they turn out to be bullshit. So, for example, I've got a big bottle of green drink here. When I had the flu one time, when I was about 19 years old, I was staying with my mom because I was really sick, so I went to stay with her for a few days. And it ended up being like 2 weeks of horrible sickness. To this day, I love drinking this stuff. After a couple weeks, when I could finally eat or drink again, she, asked me if I wanted anything in particular. I said, get me one of those green Odwalla drinks. That was back when Odwalla was the only company that made the green juice. They're not even in business anymore now. But they had the early green drink, and I loved it. I drank one or two of them, something like that, and I instantly felt better. It was like I knew that by drinking those with all the different vitamins and minerals, it had helped me immensely. So I know as a truth that when I drink this, it makes me feel better. You see what I'm getting at? This is my truth. Somebody who's allergic to something in here, it might just make their day miserable. So we find the truths that work for us, and those are the small truths. Then we have the larger ones that are shared among us. These are the ones like what kind of political system we should have. Who is God? What is God? These are the things where people can't seem to handle that other people have their own version. If you have a different spice you use, people are okay with that. If you don't like cilantro, like me, I hate it, then people are okay with that. But if you don't agree with their religion, people might have a problem with that. And these days, if you're a different political affiliation, people won't just scoff at you anymore. You're considered an outcast in many people's circles. So, which leads me to kind of, I guess, my prop for this podcast, which you wouldn't be able to see if you're watching the video version, which is on YouTube, Carpo719. The audio version is on Spotify, Apple, all the different podcasts, because I pay to have it hosted. And by the way, if it doesn't sound very good, I'm sure people will let me know. The microphone version of it has, my microphone broke. I had this old Tascam recorder, and now I'm using this little Sony voice recorder that my wife got me for Christmas a couple of years ago, and seems to do an okay job. I don't do anything fancy. It's usually a GoPro, but today on the video version, I'm using my phone to record because it'll transfer an MP4 file, yada yada. The point is that I'm going to be editing it and putting it on, like, finally trying to edit my YouTube videos. So at any rate, we've got the truth coming up here, and I have 3 books in my hand that you can only see on video, but we've got 3 books here that claim to hold truth, and I just grabbed them off the shelf randomly. I have many up there, many different opinions and ideas. The first one is Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. This is I think it's a 600 page book about basically every conspiracy you could possibly imagine in the U.S. government. I think it's a 500 page book. Every conspiracy you can imagine. When I first read this back in like 1997, I think, 98, it was all new to me. The whole JFK conspiracy, all the way up to the moon landing hoax, but also things like MK Ultra, things that only recently have actually become just known fact, not even questioned anymore. Back then, they were still questioned. There were no shows talking about these things, right? It was just still TV. There was no, internet news or anything like that. So, I wonder how much of this is true. There's everything from making deals with the aliens to everything else. But the point here is that Alex Jones was friends with William Cooper. William Cooper died in his driveway, basically with kind of a standoff with authorities over some tax bill. It was kind of conspiracy oriented. Won't go there. But Alex basically stole his shtick. The same kind of thing. Like, this is going on, but then he took it to an extreme. And the point I want to make about these guys is that their version of truth is if you get an inkling of truth, if you can just creep a little bit of truth into 10 lies, you can convince people you're telling them what's real. And if you guess 10 things and you're right 1 time, 2 times out of 10, which is often the case with Alex, he would make up all kinds of lies and bullshit. That's nothing like Cooper. Cooper was much more well-researched, and he had actually been in the government. I believe he was involved with the CIA, unless that was BS. But point being, it was a pretty well-written book. But these other 2 books, for example, the first one here would be a 700-page book called The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. A completely different type of supposed truth, right? While the first one's all about conspiracies in the government, this one's has a lot about conspiracies and hidden knowledge. It's about what's been hidden from man, supposedly, allegedly. But it's occult knowledge. Everything from the Egyptians, the Eleusinian mysteries. Let's say that there are so many different angles you can look at ancient history from, and so many different symbols. Many of them, the symbols in alchemy, for example, are all mean the same thing, just like you'll find them in different cultures, and you start to learn about these things, and you think that you're learning the truth. And then you start to wonder if it's truth that matters. And I'll get to my point here. The last book I want to share first is the perfect example of what I'm talking about. Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told by David Icke, which is also a 700-page book. Basically, every page, almost every page is loaded with memes of all things. Tons of them. I'm flipping through it right now, and you'll see every one of these little pictures almost is a meme of some sort that was either created for the book or found online. And I want to make a point about this. David Icke, I've always disliked the man. But I've not always just written him off as a lunatic so much. Many of the things he says and talks about are true. When he talks about the bloodlines, the families, the Rothschilds, and the robber barons and the government experiments done on people. All these things are true, and they're things that need to be shared. But interspersed and laced in with that is the whole reptilian thing, which, yes, he very much popularized it. It wasn't him that came up with it, but he popularized it. Many people believe it came from, I believe, a 50s or 60s movie about what was it, the Silurian hypothesis, that lizards once ruled the earth. But anyway, I don't know the whole detail, nor do I care. I went through the whole period on the internet where people were claiming to show people of, glitches on people in digital, videos, and slowing it down and saying, look, this guy's a reptilian. You can see their tongue moving. And I know because people did it to me. Because when I was talking about the occult, I had people who said, you must be possessed by Satan. And there were people at that time making response videos to me, and I'd go and look at them, and on their channel they'd have a video of me slowing down my speech, saying, look, it's Satan, he's a demon. And all these people in their little group, their clique, commenting, yeah, Carpo's a monster, he's a demon. It was weird. It was a weird time. But it was the topics at hand. It was more the point that of how I handled it. I was always responding to every negative comment, which I learned a long time ago. Just ignore them. The negative people, just give them some sugar and they'll go away every time. And if not, people still try to troll me, and I can tell when they're doing it, and I'll play along with it sometimes. But so as we're going here, the point being that when you start talking about shit like this, guys like David Icke, people almost have a religious attachment to this guy. Now, for example, Manly P. Hall, who wrote, that book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, he wrote that back in 1928. It was released, okay? 1927 and 6 and whatever, he wrote it. And I think it was released in 28, so almost a century ago. And it's got a lot of probably truths in it, but also a lot of maybe speculation. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've listened to hundreds of Manly P. Hall's lectures. I've always been fascinated with, what he has to say about history, as dry as his conversations are. But the truth mattered to me at one time. It mattered a lot more than it matters now. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at when I say that it might not matter. But sometimes it does. It doesn't matter if people lived on Earth a long time ago. It doesn't matter if, the moon landing was even a hoax. Like, it can matter to people. What I'm getting at is it doesn't matter if everybody agrees with you or believes you. There is so much bullshit out there. It's hard to know what even matters. To me, the truth does matter. I'm one of the people who seeks the truth, and I always want to know the truth. I don't want to be fooled. But the point I'm making here is that it's okay if some people do want to be fooled. It's nobody's place to tell them they should believe what the other person believes. When I was growing up and I started smoking pot around 34 years ago now, back then it was still quite illegal, and I got in trouble a couple times. And when I was on probation, I remember being talked down to by people in the system, my probation officer, some kid that was the son of somebody who ran a treatment center, which was state funded. So he basically sat on his ass on his phone the whole time and got paid by the state, to pretend like he was giving people treatment. The whole treatment system is just bullshit. But I got this book in front of me. It's called Offbeat Marijuana. And it's funny. You can peruse through it, and it's full of all these different discussions about like old, everything from reefer madness to now, basically, the history of pot in America. And when I remember, even as I was a kid, the kind of shit we were told, it rots your brain, and it's super addictive. It's a gateway drug. And then we find out that not only that we were lied to about, but psychedelics, which even after pot was proven not to be as harmful as they said, or harmful at all, it can trigger schizophrenia in some people who are predisposed. It can actually cause some sorts of mental disorders for some people. Yes, of course, lots of medications can. But for the benefits of cannabis and the safety history, it's been proven to be a wonderful substance. And psychedelics, up until a few years ago, were in the same boat as cannabis was 20 years ago. Yeah, they're going to rot your brain. Even I was told MDMA will literally put holes in your brain like Swiss cheese. They did these experiments with mice and said, yeah, look what it did to their brain, put these lesions. Then they found out later, they said accidentally, instead of using MDMA, which is, I think it's methyl dioxymethamphetamine, they were using just MA, methamphetamine. So they were giving these mice huge doses of meth and then claiming, look, it rots their brain. Well, look, there's chemical compounds. Some of them are more dangerous than others. But when it comes to psychedelics and the safety regimen, we were all lied to. And I found that out by doing them myself. Of course, I didn't buy into the BS. But when I see people physically dying from fentanyl and heroin, yeah, I stayed away from that shit. When I saw the addiction that cocaine and meth can lead to, yeah, I avoided those too. I had my day, but let's just say I got away quickly. And alcohol is a different story. I never drank that much. I partied when I was younger, but not until I got older. But kind of getting off topic here. But the point being that these drugs, you know, they all have their own kind of truth as to how they affect us. And, the things we need to understand about each one. Knowing these things does matter. These are some of the truths that do matter. It's kind of sounded off topic, I guess, but see, when you're eating food, you need to know which ones help you, just like drinking the green juice, right? You also need to know which ones are dangerous and which ones are harmful. So we all have these little truths. And the same with pharmaceutical companies. What about truth about the medications that we take and the things that we eat and consume, where we're told, well, they're safe? Then you find out that the trials that were done were biased towards making it look safe when it's not. And then it was recalled because of all the heart attacks or problems it had. When you're told the truth by other people, it's not always the correct truth. And so what I'm getting at here is, more or less, sometimes we have to decide what's real and what's not. And I want to point out a couple of ways to do that. First off, it's usually only the controversial topics that we struggle with, whether it's, politics, belief systems. We just need to be practical and look at things from both sides. But more than that, usually most controversial issues have two strong opponent, an opponent to one side, or, a supporter, whatever. Listen to the support and the opposition strongly for both sides, both arguments. And then not just listen to the argument itself or what sounds good, but ask yourself, what does the person who's speaking about it have to gain? Because sometimes the person who seems like they're just some pathetic loser who can't express themselves very well is the guy who has the best point, because they're not doing it for fame or for a political position or to try to get in somebody's favor, some kind of bootlicking asshole like there are plenty of, out there. The smooth talking politician versus the unprepared citizen, let's say. The citizen is often right. They get thrown out of the city council meeting because they're being, rambunctious, And so, the truth is often more confusing than we'd like it to be. And I guess we just have to find it for ourselves. Anyway, I guess I said a lot and I said very little at the same time here. I think changing perspectives is hard, and we want to believe that we can hang on to some sort of, facts in life. And we can. Things that have worked for us in the past, things that we've seen, help others or harm others. The certain truths that do matter, the things that the things that we need, bonding, family, connections. But not to let it become who we are. Because if we let our ideas define us, if we let ourselves fight with others over posturing on different opinions, we'll never live in peace with ourselves. And that, my friends, is my podcast for the night. I'll talk to you all next time. Be well. Take care of each other. Much love. Let me give you the truth about global warming. Here's the truth about your very favorite musician / author / movie star / politician. Here's the truth about the end of this video. I'm very sad to make it. Thanks for coming to Carlo's channel, yo. Yeah.